Shalom, giving all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutation as always to the elect. And real briefly, I wanted to deal with Arsareth and ultimately proving that the 10 tribes did indeed come over here to the Americas. Okay, North, Central, and South America. All right, which is why when Christopher Columbus and his counterparts came over here, understanding by reading the prophecies in the book of Ezra, they brought Hebrew interpreters. All right, and there's various books, there's various artifacts. All right, and in fact, the most artifacts, all right, linking to the Hebrew Israelites are found over here in the Americas. Okay, North, Central, and South America has the most artifacts. All right, linking the people that settled here, okay, to biblical prophecy. All right, because the big mystery is how did the so-called Native American tribes, all right, Seminole tribes, Seminole Indians, and so forth, so-called Mexican, how did they end up over here? How did they end up in this region? Well, the scriptures explains that. Okay, and you have a lot of people that are now teaching that all the 10 tribes are in Africa. And I just wanted to deal with that because ultimately the northern and southern kingdom in bulk, all right, would be over here in the Americas in the latter days prophesying. Okay, now we do have brothers and sisters scattered, you know, in the land of Ham, all right, which is Africa, all right, Ham. Okay, that's how you say it in the Hebrew. Chum is where you get Kemetic or Kemet. Okay, we do have brothers and sisters still there. Okay, and the Lord is going to gather them as well. All right, but to say that the 10 tribes are only in Africa, all right, does not link up with biblical prophecy. All right, and we'll get that, and we'll try to keep it as simple, okay, as possible. Now, I wanted to deal with this one argument real quick, used by this guy, Elder Quanath.
Subscribe to the 12 tribe chart, and you're the first one that I heard say that Hispanics cannot be Hebrew Israelites. You're the first one. This is the first time I ever heard that.
They don't fit the prophecy, brother. One prophecy is saying that the Israelites will be few in number amongst the nations, right? So when you look at America, they say what? We are the least amongst the nations. But in Mexico, the population is 120 million, 2 million blacks. Every country that we reside in, we the least in population. These people are taking over. And now, guess what, Sarnetta? You will never see these, One West can't speak about this. But now, since they've been telling these Hispanics that they're Israelites, now them Hispanics are saying they're the Israelites, and we're not. And we from the seed of Ham. That's what they're saying now.
And he used, in anyone who goes to Sarnetta TV, you know, to present the truth or present their argument according to the Holy Scriptures, I feel is a red flag. All right. And the brothers who do, you know, teach somewhat the similar doctrine that we teach, I feel as though they should stay away from Sarnetta. Okay. But this guy, Elder Quanath, pops back up. And what does he do? He plays the harlot. He goes right over to Sarnetta TV, a guy who openly disrespects Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, plays games with his truth, uses it for a platform and a means to make money, cause confusion. All right, and ultimately his channel is a pantheon. Okay, all the gods, anyone can come and present, you know, their particular god or doctrine or philosophy, as long as it furthers black people, and that's a platform set up, all right, on a lesser level by the elites. Okay, they deal with that with these guys, and you know, you have pictures of Sarnetta when he's showing you who his alliance is to with his hand sign. Okay, but that's another topic for another time. All right, these guys are agents. All right, on the left hand side, at the end of the day, paid off to cause confusion. Esau Edom needs that black power platform to keep Jake's mind all over the place. Okay, and the Israelites should not link, all right, this truth to that. This truth is sacred. It's holy. It's not a part of any other philosophy. It's not a part of that pantheon known as the House of Consciousness. However, you do have Israelites who, for some reason, you know, make it their business to, you know, garner themselves attention or whatever it may be that they are looking for go over to Sinetta TV, okay, to present their argument, like this guy Elder Quanath, all right, which that doesn't make sense to me. Okay, whether we agree or disagree, we should do it on our own platforms. But this is Ezekiel 11 and 16. Now, he used this because his argument, as I posted a video yesterday done by the elder Barak Gabar, his argument is that, you know, the so-called Mexican, the so-called, you know, Latino, Native American tribes are too much in number, all right, and that you know, the Israelites would be small among the heathen, meaning few in number. Okay, and I wanted to give understanding on that, because as you read here, and he used this in the Ezekiel the 11th chapter, and I'm not going to go to that video. I mean, I'm just going to edify through the Spirit. The video originally where he was with Sinetta playing a harlot and being a monkey. All right, Ezekiel 11 and 6 is there. Therefore say, thus saith the Lord God, although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come. So he is saying there's no way that the so-called Mexican can be an Israelite, because they have over 120, you know, million people over there. They have this, they have that. The Lord said we would be as a little sanctuary among the countries where we were scattered. And that proves that this guy has no understanding, because this is speaking of the believers. Okay, the little sanctuaries will ultimately be the believers, the Israelites who will come back to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, will be a small remnant. And what is the sanctuary? Okay, we're gonna read that Ma Kadash. Okay, the word sanctuary is Ma Kadash, sacred people, sanctuary, a holy place, and a holy place is ultimately the priesthood. Okay, and we are that holy temple. Okay, the temple representing what? The direct presence of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai on the earth. So Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai in the latter days will raise up a remnant, all right, and through Yahweh Shai send them the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, and the understanding would dwell in these small sanctuaries that would be scattered amongst these nations where we are. Okay, it wouldn't be a gigantic movement with billions, millions of Israelites, you know, standing up, waking up to the truth. No, it would be small sanctuaries, which that's actually what makes it so powerful. See, this power, the power of this Hebrew Israelite awakening isn't the number. Okay, it's the fact that it's written about. It's the fact that it looks insignificant. Okay, it says the temple, the tabernacle. Okay, Ezekiel's temple and so forth. All right, it comes from the root word kadash. All right, to be consecrated, sanctified, prepared, dedicated, to be hallowed, to be holy. Okay, and not the whole nation of Israel is not going to be, all right, consecrated and sanctified here in these latter days. Okay, that's one thing. Now let's go back here and read this again, and then we'll get to the lesson. Okay, it says, therefore thus saith the Lord God, although I have cast them far among the heathen. Okay, and we are among the heathen, and from among the heathen we've repented. Okay, those Gentiles that were scattered among the heathen, we became Gentiles through learning the works of those heathen who we were among. Okay, dwelling among. And although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I be unto them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come. Okay, so he's saying this right here is a scripture you can use to say, well, the so-called Mexican, all right, in these particular tribes could not be Israelites because they have a lot of number. All right, well, let's get the prophecy in the book of Hosea, the 1st chapter. Okay, to put that to rest before we get into this lesson. This is Hebrews, all right, chapter 1. Okay, and this is a parable, all right, in which Hosea, you know, went and dealt with a harlot and had 2 children. And one of them was named, all right, Lo Ami, all right, and the other one was named, all right, La Ruhama, all right. So I'll just get to the point, because Israel was that harlot, all right. We played the harlot following after the customs of these other nations, all right. We were to be the wife of the Most High, man, holy to that covenant, but we broke that covenant. Verse 8, it says, now when she had weaned Leruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, call his name Lo-Ami. All right, Lo-Ami. Let's look up the Hebrew word. La'ah, meaning no or not. All right, Amai. All right, like you had that dude Ben Ami. All right, son of the people. Okay, well, La'ah, not my people. The Lord is saying you're not going to be my people, meaning he would turn his back on the children of Israel. Okay, so there was a point where we were separated from our God. Okay, we became Gentiles. He turned his face. All right, he didn't have favor on us. We didn't have understanding. Okay, but amongst these countries where we were scattered, the Lord would send an understanding to a small remnant. And let's get that. It says, yet shall the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea. So that's many Israelites, man. You know, that's many Israelites, man, which cannot be measured nor numbered. You see that? So the Israelites can't be measured or numbered, man. There's a ton of people who are Israelites that you don't think that they're Israelites. Okay? But here's the point. And it shall come to pass that in a place it was said unto them, ye are not my people. There it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Okay? And that would happen through a remnant. Okay? Romans 9:27. Isaiah also crieth concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. A remnant shall be saved. Okay? And this word for remnant in the Greek, you know,
Strong's G 2640, Upalema, Thayer's Lexicon, Katalema,
which means remains, remnant. And that's what's happening here in these latter days. All right. Though we are scattered amongst, all right, these particular nations, we wouldn't be such small in number. There's a bunch of Israelites. All right. But through a remnant is the Lord going to return, man, and give them that understanding. That will be the small sanctuary. The small sanctuary that did not deal with just Israel, period, in number. Okay. Because ultimately, in truth, we are the majority. Okay. But as far as believers, it's just a small sanctuary, man. Okay. And amongst this world, it looks insignificant. Okay. And as a matter of fact, let's look it up in the Hebrew, because what is he quoting? He's quoting Isaiah 10:20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. And that's what's happening here in these latter days, man. Okay, this is why we say you can't put a skin tone on this, because it's happening via the Spirit. Now, the word remnant, okay, in the Hebrew, sha'ar, all right, sha'ar, or shar, let's see. It says rest, residue, remnant, remainder. The remaining of all of the Israelites that are actually here, there's a remainder and remnant among those whom the Lord is going to return to. So I just wanted to deal with that real quick to combat this guy's reasoning as to why the so-called Mexican couldn't be an Israelite. The prophecy in Hosea said that we would be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. That's a lot of people, man. Okay? Sand in the Hebrew is what? Chawal. And when you look at sand, man, that's you can't number sand, man. So that's the same way it is with the Israelites. So your logic actually proves what the scripture is saying, that's saying that there's a lot of so-called Mexicans. Now, dealing with Arsareth real quick, let's get that out of there. We got that. Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13 and 40, which is a very key scripture, all right, a series of scriptures to understanding how the so-called Native and Seminole Indians got over here to the Americas. It says those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser, okay, now at this time that Shalmaneser was ruling, man, okay, you got people that say Arsareth is Japan, you know, Arsareth is Turkey, Arsareth is, Africa, you know, and all of these various different places. But those places were populated and already governed, which will show you why I said that. Okay, it says Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and they came into another land. Okay, another land. All right, keep that in mind. It says, but they took this counsel among themselves, and it says he carried them over the waters. Okay, now a lot of people say that it never said boats. Well, I mean, if he's carrying you over the waters, what are you doing? Swimming? Okay. It says, but they took, or walking. Maybe they just, performed a miracle. All right, that Yahushua and Peter performed, and they walked on water for a year and a half. Maybe that's what that's talking about. But they took this multitude among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Okay, now remember, the Apocrypha was translated from Hebrew to Greek. So when you look up that word dwelt in the Greek, here's the Greek word.
Strong's G 2730. Katoikeo. Katoikeo.
Because a lot of people would think that it meant no one ever touched ground on there, or no one ever, went over there, which we know according to prophecy. All right, there were navies that were sent over here to the Americas to gather precious things, because this was known as paradise, man. This was a very fruitful land before the Edomite came over here and set his paws on it. All right, when the people of the Lord were here, although they were going off and doing wickedness, they took care of the earth. They understood the land Sabbath. They understood how to take care of the earth, how to be at one with the earth. And we're going to get that back in its fullness when we get our kingdom. Now, to go down, it says to dwell, to settle. All right, metaphorically, divine powers, influences are said to dwell in his soul, to pervade, to prompt, to govern it. Okay, to govern it. So ultimately, this landmass was never governed. There was never a kingdom that was set up to govern it and have a empire. Particular people came over here and did things. And the example is 1 Kings 10 and 22. It says, for the king had a sea at navy of Tarshish, all right, which there's actual study that the Phoenicians did come over here, man. There's an actual study you can look up. The Phoenician, there was a lot of Phoenician Hamites that actually came over here to the Americas. And, that's where you get the Olmec heads and various different things, man. Okay, with the navy of Hiram, once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish. Now, this is King Solomon's navy, okay? And Tarshish is like in the area of Spain, okay? It said, came the navy of Tarshish bringing gold and silver and ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and for wisdom. So Solomon was balling out, and he had a navy that would go over there once in 3 years, because it took around a year and a half to get there. All right, and a year and a half to get back. So that's 3 years, right? So going back here, okay, going back to the point that we were where we were, it says 2nd Esdras 13 and 41, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into another country where never mankind dwelt or governed or set up a empire. Okay, people had been there. Okay, it says that they might keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land. All right, and when they got over here to the Americas, burning frankincense was a big part of keeping, their laws. Well, they didn't have frankincense, so what did they use? They used copal, all right, which is known as a poor man's frankincense, all right. And that's another proof. That's more proof, because the Native Americans and the so-called Mexicans were heavy into using copal, because frankincense isn't native to the Americas. So they had to improvise, and they found another tree resin in the form of copal. But you can do that on that study on your own. Let me just get to the point. It says, so they went to a further country, okay, which another land, that they might keep their own statues, all right, that they never kept in their own land. And it says, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Now, it doesn't add up that this is, Turkey, all right, because let me keep going real quick. It says, for the Most High showed signs for them, and he held still the flood, all right, the rough waters around the horns of Africa. We'll show you that, all right, till they were passed over. Okay, showing you that they were in ships, man. One of the arguments is that it never says ships. Well, why is he holding back the flood? Why are they in the Euphrates, which is a river? Okay, come on, man. It says, for though that country, all right, there was a way to go, namely of 1.5 years. You see, it took Solomon's navy, all right, 3 years, because they would go there and come back. But here it says 1.5 years, because they stayed. They didn't come back. Okay, as the scriptures say, what's the precept? This is Hosea chapter 9 and 13. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land. All right, eventually we were scattered away from Jerusalem, through various captivities. But Ephraim, the 10 tribes, shall return to Egypt. All right, they came here on ships, okay, just as Judah came on ships. Now, when you do the research on those ships, were so-called Negroes as well, and Latinos and Native Americans as well. All right, one of the first slave ships that came to New York had so-called Negroes and so-called Native Americans on it. All right, and that's another study for another time. Lord will, I'll get back into that. I brought it out in the book a long time ago, but that's an old video. So Lord will, I'll get back into it, showing you that on the slave ships that even came to the Americas from, Europe, Spain, in particular parts of the world, there were so-called Native Americans on there, man. But what does it say? They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return unto Egypt. Okay, because they came over here ultimately to dwell, and ultimately the so-called white man eventually came to suffer judgment. Okay, the judgment that was written to happen to the Israelites happened, all right, over here in the Americas, man. All right, as well as various places, but this is the main, all right, captivity, man, where the Lord really got our attention. All right, they should return unto Egypt and eat unclean things in Assyria. In Assyria and Egypt are synonymous with the final captivity. Okay, let's get a quick understanding on that. Okay, these are all synonymous for the final captivity. Okay, let's get let's see here. Isaiah 11 and 16, and there shall be a highway from the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. There's a better one. And Hosea, here you go. Hosea 11 and 11. They shall tremble as a bird, because we're going to be beamed up, and as a dove out of the land. Let's see. They shall tremble as a bird out of Egypt, and as a dove out of the land of Assyria, and I will place them in their houses, saith the Lord. He's going to bring us back to our land. But ultimately we're going to be delivered out of captivity. Okay. Zechariah 10 and 10. I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt and gather them out of Assyria. All right. These are synonymous for just captivity. All right. America is known as Egypt, in prophecy is also known as Assyria. Okay. But it ultimately just means captivity. Okay. But the as we'll show you, the main captivity will be here in the Americas, man. Okay. That's where the bulk of the prophets will be raised up at, man. It says, and I will bring them again into the land of Gilead in Lebanon. All right. And the place shall not be found for them. And he shall pass through the sea of affliction. We went through hell, and shall smite the waves of the sea, and the deep rivers shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. Okay, and Egypt basically means double straits, you know, position of difficulty. All right, bondage. Okay, so as we just read here, Ephraim, all right, they shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return unto Egypt and eat unclean things in Assyria. So when they got over here to the Americas, they were going off, man. They were sacrificing human flesh. They were doing all sorts of wickedness, man. Okay, and even unto this day, the northern tribes, man, they love eating unclean foods. Judah loves it too, but those northern tribes, man, they'll put a slice of ham lunch meat on a hamburger, man. You know, like you'd be like, what's wrong with y'all? A bunch of weirdos. But ultimately, going back to the point, 2nd Esdras chapter 13. Okay, and let's get to this point. It says in verse 43, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High showed signs for them, and hell stood the flood till they were passed over. For that country was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, the same region which is called Arsareth. Okay, now a lot of people are saying that this Arsareth is Africa. Some say Japan. You know, now this Arsareth, okay, remember, is where never mankind dwelt. And we know that that dwelt means governed. The land of Ham had already been governed. Okay, Turkey had already been governed. Japan had already been governed. Some say it's the Philippines. That had already been governed. What land is this talking about? Now, as you look at a map, and we'll get to this word Arsareth in just a minute, it just means another land, and we'll show you. And here's the point right here. It says, so they came into another land. All right, and then it says Arsareth. We'll get that in just a minute. But as you look at a map, it says they entered into the Euphrates River. Now, the Euphrates River, okay, Euphrates River, this is where they were in this area of Iraq, all right, Assyria, which the capital of Assyria was Nineveh. As you go here, this is the Euphrates River, okay. Now, it would only make sense if you look at the logic, because this is the Euphrates River. It goes right here. It goes here. It goes all the way here. It goes here, and it goes down. As you do it, it would only make sense that they eventually ended up here, okay? They entered by the Euphrates, okay? Let's read that again. It says, they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High showed signs for them. All right, our people understood reading the signs and the stars and the moon and the currents. Okay, they understood that science. Okay, and hell stood the flood till they were passed over. Okay, and the flood is ultimately speaking of as they entered into these waters. Okay. As they entered into these waters, as you get around the Horn of Africa, that's some rough waters, okay? Now, the land of Ham had already been governed, all right, and dwelt, all right? We know that. I mean, Egypt is just one example, okay? But as you get down, they eventually came here. And if you know anything about currents, all right, the current naturally, okay, and I'll put a picture up. The current naturally would have taken them, okay, right here, okay, and boom, okay, and where would they go? They would come all the way over here to what is known as the Americas. Here's the current. It's going down, as you can see, as you go around here. Bam, it takes you up and into the Americas. You can either go that way, which they were all over here in the Americas, and even ended up here, Canada, Alaska, and all these various different places. This is how the 10 tribes ultimately got over here to the Americas, and the current bears witness to that. You know, the current bears witness to that. And they wouldn't have needed to go to the Euphrates River and all of that to get to these other places where you all are saying is Arsareth. Boom. The currents would have took them from there, and they will go all into the Americas. It's where you get Puerto Rico, all right, the rich port, okay, Cuba. Okay, when you look at the 12 tribes chart, it's ultimately dealing with the Israelites in the major places where they were scattered. Okay, but we understand that our people are scattered all over the four corners of the earth. But the focal point of the scriptures is dealing with Babylon the Great. Okay, and this is where the bulk of the men of the Lord would be in the latter days preaching, and we'll show you that. And both tribes will be together, northern and southern kingdom. Ephraim and Judah will be together, raised up together as one in Babylon the Great. But this is how the tribes got here. Okay, they in the current, as you can see on that picture, proves that they would have come here and come around there. You know, why would they do all of that just to go to Africa? Okay, because the argument is that the 10 tribes are only in Africa, and prophecy destroys that. We don't have to go into maps and different things. Prophecies really destroy all of these things, but I just wanted to show y'all that. Okay, and the word Arsareth. Okay, so the Euphrates River, as you can see, is here, you know, and a lot of people say, well, Arsareth is Turkey, I believe. Well, as you get up here, you know, eventually the Euphrates River kind of dwindles, you know, it stops, and goes, you know. So what did they do? They stopped here and walked to Turkey? No, that doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is that the tribes from this area that they were in would eventually come here and enter into the waters. And the Most High would show them signs, okay, and enter in here and go here to the Americas. As the current map that you're seeing shows you, it would automatically push them there, okay? And the Phoenicians coming from this area, I think the Mediterranean Sea ultimately have them to go here. And then it's beautiful that the Lord had the southern kingdom eventually flee the Roman persecution and ended up primarily in West Africa, so that our prophecy can be filled, that we would be brought over here in ships straight to the Americas. Okay, straight to the Americas. Now, going back here, let's read it again. Okay, and we're going to start at 40 again, and we'll read down and we'll get some other scriptures. It says, for the 10, those are the 10 tribes, 2nd Esdras 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, all right, whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive. Okay, at the time that Shalmaneser was ruling, all right, the places that these people are saying are Arsareth were already populated. Okay, and let's just look it up real quick. Shalmaneser. You see that? 7. Let's see here. It says around 727 to 722 BC. The land of Ham was already being governed, and all of these various other places that they're speaking of were already governed. Okay, what land wasn't already ultimately governed was Arsareth. Okay, it says, and they came into another land. Okay, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into another country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. You see that? And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Okay, I don't understand how you won't do that with boats, because the argument is, how would they get boats if they were in captivity and all of this and all of that? Ain't the Lord in control? Didn't the Lord write this movie? All right. It says, for the Most High, all right, then showed signs for them, showing them the stars. Okay. Because the tribe of Issachar in the northern kingdom, in the scriptures, it actually says that they had understanding of reading the stars. That was one of their gifts. That's how they built those various pyramids over here. Okay. The pyramids, that's another clue that these are Israelites. Why did they build all of those pyramids? Okay, they was the same one building the pyramids in Egypt. Okay, it says they entered in the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river, for the Most High showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. Okay, for that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. That same region is called Arsareth. All right, Arsareth. And they dwelt there until the latter time, all right, which is now, all right, for their judgment. Okay, Christopher Columbus and Esau came over here and judged us, and now when they shall begin to come, okay, the other tribes came over here, okay, as well, but they're coming in the form of waking up to who they are in prophecy in the land of their captivity. To fulfill prophecy, it says, in the land of your captivities shall ye remember yourself. Now, dealing with this word Arsareth, all right, this is, and I remember Amashaba actually brought this out a while back. This is Deuteronomy 29, okay, and 28. It says, and the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger, in wrath, and in indignation, and cast them into another land. Now, we're not using this to say that this is a fulfillment of Jake going into the Americas. But in spirit, it says, as it is unto this day, this applies to us being taken out of Jerusalem, out of our power structure, out of our sovereignty, and scattered all throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay. Because our sovereignty comes when the 12 tribes are all together. So the Lord split the kingdom and scattered us everywhere, man. Okay. Far from one another. But as you see here, it says the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land. Okay, as it is this day. In prophecy, in spirit, we can use that for now, but this particular prophecy wasn't speaking of ultimately America. Okay, now what I wanted to prove here is using this word another land. Now, when you go into the Hebrew, okay, as you see here, I'll get it here. I'll take away those vowel points. Al Arataza. All right. Ah ha Rath. All right. Let's read that again. Another land. Al Arataza. Al unto. All right. Arataza is earth or region. As a matter of fact, let's look that up real quick. Another land. Arataza, when you look that word up, all right, it says land, earth, whole earth, as opposed to a part, country, territory, district, region, territory, okay, piece of ground, land of Canaan. Now, America was actually called, okay, where you got Canada, the Americas in this region, these regions, in this hemisphere was actually known as Canaan. Okay, there's a study on that. Maybe a brother can bring that out. I remember the other Sakaran going into that before, that this place was called the New Canaan, okay, as well. All right, but there you go. It just, a territory, all right, and that territory was over here in the Americas. So Arsareth, all right, in the Hebrew, because remember, this was translated, okay, this was translated from the Hebrew into the Greek. Okay, the Apocrypha. Okay, and it tells you even in the prologue to Sirach that that these words lose their strength when they're translated into another language. Because as you see here, Arsareth, all right, Arsareth really is Tazah. All right, that Sa really in the Hebrew goes back to Tazah. Okay. Because they were translating and transliterating and figuring out how to make these words make sense in another language. So Arsareth in the Hebrew is ultimately Al Arataza Aharath. Al-Aratazah Aharath, which is basically just Arsareth. Okay, so it just means another land, another region, man. Okay, all unto, as you can see here, let me take these vowel points away. Al Aratazah Aharath. Al Aratazah Aharath. Al Aratazah Aharath. Okay, and then in the Greek, you say Arsareth, just like Melchizedek. Okay, in the New Testament, we it's clearly Melchizedek. As a matter of fact, we can get Genesis the 14th chapter real quick. Genesis 14. We see Melchizedek, which is Malak Tazadok. Malak Tazadok. All right, and the Tazah. All right, when it was translated, just they just put Sa, because in the proof of that is when you get Hebrews the 7th chapter. Okay, the Sa, the Tazah becomes just Sa. All right, Melchizedek, but really it's Malak Tazadok. All right, so this word Arsareth, okay, just means another land, which it says that earlier in the chapter. It says they came into another land, and that land is called, that region is called Arsareth. Okay, and again, how do we say that in the Hebrew? Let's take away these vowel points. Al Aratazah. Okay, Al Aratazah. Unto region, another. Al Aratazah Aharath. Basically, Arsareth. Okay, so that's ultimately what that word means. And as we showed you, that other land that they came into were the Americas. Okay, North, Central, and South America, Canada. Okay, which basically Canada is Canaan. That's basically what it means. Now, according to prophecy, then you had the other tribes come over and eventually serve their hardcore captivity here in the land of Babylon. Now, this is Jeremiah, all right, because this is what's happening now. I start here in Jeremiah 50. It says, in those days, okay, in those days, what days? The days that these prophecies of America getting ready to be destroyed are coming to pass fully. It says, in those days and in that time, saith Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. Okay, the children of Israel, they and the children of Judah together, both northern and southern kingdom, going and weeping, they shall go, all right, and seek the Lord their God. And we're going to prove that they would be together. Okay, because they say the 10 tribes are over in Africa or over in these other regions, and it's not America. Okay, well, according to prophecy, you have some explaining to do, and that's what we're going to get to. When you go to verse 33, it says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. Okay, all that took them captives hold them fast. They refused to let them go. And where will we be in the latter days? Ultimately in the land of the north in bulk. Okay, and the majority of the prophets that are being raised up are being raised up here in Babylon the Great. That's not to say that you don't have prophets scattered throughout the four corners of the earth being raised up, but the bulk of the prophets would be here in the Americas, man. Okay, that's why the scriptures say, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west. Okay, and this is the northwestern hemisphere. Okay, this is where the bulk of the prophets, all right, the focal point of the prophets would be in Babylon the Great, man. This is Baruch chapter 2 and 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. And that's what's happening over here, primarily in Babylon the Great, but scattered throughout the various captivities, those small sanctuaries are being raised up. Okay, and shall know that I am the Lord their God, for I will give them hearts and ears to hear. And that's happening amongst, all right, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. That's undeniable. they're raising up saying that they're Israelites. And you don't see a bunch of so-called Mexicans and Native Americans saying that, well, we're the Israelites and they're the Hamites. I've never really heard that argument. You know, the dude is, you know, some of them may have said that, because ultimately there's always been strife and envy between the northern and southern kingdom. As the scriptures say, he broke the brotherhood. Okay. As a matter of fact, it's in the book of he broke the brotherhood between the tribes, man. This is Zechariah 11:4. Then I cut asunder my other staff, even the bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. So there would be strife and hate amongst them. And that can be further explained in Isaiah the 11th chapter, that would ultimately end, and that's ceasing via the remnant coming together in these latter days. Okay. Having a heart, all right, and ears to hear. All right. Meaning the Lord would communicate with us through our mind and raise up the prophets, man. And they will return from their stiff neck through the preaching of the word, which is primarily taking place in Babylon the Great, and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers, which have sinned before the Lord. All right. And I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they shall be the lords of it. Okay. Of the whole entire earth. But we're going to rule out of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem, all right, was the place where the tribes were last together under David and Solomon's dominion. Okay. We were the northern and southern kingdom were together. Okay. And this is speaking of the kingdom of heaven, that everlasting covenant, as you keep reading. Okay. That's going to take place after the Lord delivered us out of Babylon the Great and the various captivities that we're at. But Babylon the Great will be the major deliverance, because that's where the destruction is going to be at. And if you're saying that these so-called Mexicans, Native Americans, Seminoles have nothing to do with this prophecy, all right, then you're denying the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay, because if you're saying that the 10 tribes are only in Africa, all right, where are the camps? Where are the various brothers raising up? Now, are we saying that there aren't brothers in Africa raising up? Absolutely not. There are brothers and sisters in Africa raising up. We got brothers in all over the earth raising up. But there would be a big push. You would see it, and it would be made magnified. And those so-called Latino and Native American brothers are on fire, and that would be over here in the Americas, man, the northwestern hemisphere. That's why the scriptures say, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west. Now, going back here, all right, this is Jeremiah 3:18. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel. The house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, meaning they will be together, and they shall come together out of the land of the north. Now, what is the land of the north, man? That's the Americas, man. The northwestern hemisphere is where we are in bulk. Okay, and small sanctuaries amongst these countries where we are would wake up. That's the remnant. Okay, it says, and they shall come out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. You see that? The children, it says, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north. Now, is it just the land of the north? No, but why does it focus on that? Because this is where the bulk of the prophets would start to raise up and preach this word, which would be offered as a sweet savor, and then others all around the world would see it and wake up. Okay, this is Jeremiah chapter 23, okay, and 6. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, and this is the name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. That's Yahweh Shai, man, the King of righteousness, man. Okay, and Yahweh is going to send his son, Yahweh Shai, to fulfill all of these things. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country. You see, the main focal point is the north country, Babylon the Great, because that place is going to be engulfed in fire and burned. And from all the countries whither I have driven them. You see that? So it's going to be from the north country, Babylon the Great, where Judah and Ephraim would be together, raising up, preaching, and then eventually delivered. But as well as there, all of the countries, whether I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. And this has not been fulfilled yet. So in the kingdom of heaven, we're not going to celebrate the Lord delivering us out of Egypt. All right, we're going to celebrate the Lord delivering us out of this spiritual Egypt, okay, which is ran by Esau, Edom, okay? Joel chapter 3, and we'll end it off here. I don't want to go too long. Joel chapter 3 and 19, Egypt shall be a desolation. Now we know Babylon is going to be a desolation. This is speaking of Babylon the Great, but in code. And Edom shall be a desolate wilderness. All right. For the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. Over here in the Americas, have they shed innocent blood, man? Destroyed the dwelling places, did all sorts of wickedness. But Judah shall dwell forever in Jerusalem from generation to generation. The two tribes being brought back together, which is the united kingdom of Israel, in which that will be the throne of David, in which Yahushua will sit on, because the throne of David represented all 12 tribes being together. And we only had that for a small time, but we're going to have that forever and ever, and going to be a government. For I will cleanse the blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. Okay, so, with that, hopefully I was edified. There was a few more points I had, but maybe I'll do another video. Shalom.